Alright, kind of a different response video, I suppose. I was listening to this Skeptical Heretic video, which is really boring. And so, I did notice the toolbar, somebody had posted a link to this guy's video. So I played a few seconds of it, pretty much. 19 seconds. So let's start from the beginning. But yeah, this ought to be funny, at least funny. There ought to be some entertainment value. So I think he's a pro-extinctionist, but he wants to save the animals. Some kind of Buddhist thing, no doubt. Some kind of wacky religion, no doubt. So anyway, let's play along. See where it goes.
So I just watched the conversation between Inmendham and Les Knight, and I find several problems with Inmendham's arguments. First of all, it's pretty unfair to assume that people in the third world that are having more babies are less civilized or more...
It's not an assumption, okay? It's really not. It's a statistical fact. They've even done it in countries like India. You know, the same people, one town they educate the girls, the other town they don't educate the girls. Girls in one town have 2 kids, the girls in the other town have 5 kids. Not complicated. And yes, I associate with civilization, especially if you're living on a garbage dump and you have duty running across your front door in a trench and you can't figure out that having a kid might not be a great idea. I'm saying you're pretty unfucking civilized. Yeah. It's my definition of civilization anyway, is things like septic tanks, clean water. Yeah, that's civilization.
More stupid than people in rich countries.
Yes, they're stupid as too. That's the truth of it. They're stupid. Okay, you want to pretend they're not stupid? Go ahead and pretend, but it's a fact. Alright, if we go out and give people IQ tests based on how many kids, just give them the test. And you give the ones with the 5 kids versus the ones with the 1 kid, and you're going to find out, guess what? The people that have the 1 kid are going to be smarter than the kid with 5 kids. It's just a fact. Get over yourself, silly person.
Let's not forget that having 1 child in a first world country is the equivalent, ecologically.
It's not about what it is ecologically. That's right. Civilization is expensive. Yeah, that's right. That's the problem with it, okay? And everybody wants it, but nobody really wants to pay the freight with it. Even the civilized countries are in debt because it's very expensive to be civilized. That's right. But that doesn't have anything to do with the subject, does it? No, it doesn't really.
Of having dozens of babies in a third world country. The footprint of the rich kid will be incomparably greater.
Again, footprint means what, how? Alright, we know where the footprint's coming from now, right? So, I mean, theoretically, let's just say we didn't play along with the third world, and we didn't let the third world people into the first world countries to increase their population. It would be quite obviously what's taking place, okay, that all the population is coming from those countries, all the increases in population, and all the unsustainability that's going to be created by that increase in human population is being created by them. So it doesn't really matter what the particular footprint is. The point is their footprints are obviously going right across the border into those countries where they're, they might be born over here, but they're going to end up over here, and once they get up over here, their footprint gets huge, just like the other footprints. So it really doesn't matter then, does it? Right? As soon as they taste civilization, they want it all too.
And so in some ways, we could actually say that humans in rich countries are stupider because we consume more.
Yeah, there would be no problem with how much you consume if population was stopped, okay? So if the third world would stop producing excess population increases, then we could manage the population we have. But you can't manage it if it's unsustainable growth. So that's the dead end. That's the unsustainable part.
And have a bigger footprint. Now, Inmendham is right that Mars has...
Yeah, and exactly who would be stupid enough to say, oh yeah, I would like to live in a country where I get cholera. I'd like to live in a place where I don't have clean drinking water. Yeah, no, nobody smart would do that.
less suffering. But what he or Les did not mention is that it also has less satisfaction and less joy.
Yeah, well, whatever. Yeah, Les didn't even mention it because it's silly. Okay? Satisfaction is a consequence of first creating some sort of need for the satisfaction, some sort of deprivation in need of gratification. And that's pretty much what your joy list is covered with also. Okay, if you're deriving joy from something, it's likely because you need escapism, or you need relief, or you need a distraction, or something else, and that's why it's pleasing you, is because it's taking you away from your real concerns, and taking you away from your real life and your real worries, and creating the illusion of happiness. And maybe pink balloons can do that for 5 minutes, but that's just another drug.
Inmendham has not shown any evidence that the intelligence of humans gives us the ability or the right to decide whether the suffering in nature is so much greater than...
Oh yeah, right. So we didn't pass IQ test. He hasn't given. I haven't proved that we're smarter than giraffes. I have to go out and actually do that. All right, I'll go ask the giraffes to add 2 plus 2. They'll fail the test. I win. So yeah, I think I can prove we're smarter than animals. If you think you have a viable argument that their animals have secret underground intelligence or something, it'd be nice if you showed a little bit of evidence yourself. Yeah, I'd stake it all. You know, I'd invest everything I own in the fact that, yeah, I'm smarter than the average horse.
And its satisfaction and joy.
Again, satisfaction and joy doesn't really mean anything. Those are just little fluffy words you're playing with, like little girl toys or something. What are you talking about exactly? Eating a bag of potato chips? What's your satisfaction and joy shit that you're saying is worth torturing people for, or torturing animals for? You'll let a chimpanzee die of polio in the wild, miserably on the ground, getting eaten alive by some sort of organisms, to have your joy. Your joy is worth it, you're saying. You're saying our joy is worth it. You're presuming for it. It doesn't have a right to say no. How many chimpanzees would have to raise their little hands and say, no mas, no, I don't want to play? How many would you force to play?
Even with humans. I mean, when suffering happens in nature, a primitive human can often accept it stoically.
Oh, whatever that again. What does that have to do with it? That's your business. You want to stoically accept a telephone pole up your ass? Go ahead. You want to accept stoically getting raped in prison? Go ahead. No one's stopping you. Alright? It's the argument is whether you have a right to pretend that everything else is obligated to be stoic. I have no obligation to stoically endure living in shit because you think it's a good idea, because you think it's the right footprint. Fuck you. I have no interest in living your footprint. I have no interest in being obligated by an asswipe to do a goddamn motherfucking thing. You have no right to oblige me to invest in your delusions of accomplishment, and they're just fucking delusions.
It is, part of nature. It is part of the nature of things.
That doesn't, part of nature, that's worse than resorting to God. Okay, we know nature's an imbecile. Okay, I mean, God's a fantasy character, but yeah, if it exists, it's supposed to have, like, super intelligence. So you have some hope referencing God, maybe. That might make some sense. But referencing something we already know doesn't have a brain? Gosh, that's pretty lame, asshole.
It is no one's fault, and this makes it more bearable.
Says you. I mean, really. I really don't understand. It's more bearable because it's completely preventable, and it's only happening because deluded assholes are pushing the button to go. And that makes it more bearable? No, that doesn't make it any more bearable. I will not be asphalt for your highway to joy and whatever, satisfaction. Fuck you.
But when out of nature and civilization, suffering tends to be man-made. It is not perceived.
Oh, what? This is Yes, there was no suffering on planet Earth till humans showed up. Right, crocodiles were eating stuff, but nothing suffered. Nothing got a disease. There was no such thing as a virus or an illness or a microbe. It wasn't until humans showed up that all the microbes showed up. I'm an idiot.
Perceived as impersonal, but as the result of an imposition on the person by other persons. Other persons whose decisions the individual has no ability to influence.
Yeah, right, exactly. What? Huh? What? The conversation is about what do intelligent people who now have choices, what are they going to take responsibility for? You have a choice. It's your decision. Okay, no buttons get pressed unless you say it's okay now, all right? It's all the buttons have been revealed. The curtain has been removed. You can't make excuses now that nature did it or something else did it. If you don't act, that's acting. Okay, if you don't come to the rape victims' aid, okay, that's a decision. All right, it's not a non-decision. It's not a I'm going to mind my own business. There's none of that shit anymore. Okay, the truth is here. We can see it. You want to pretend it doesn't exist. That's your business, but it's making a decision, and I think that decision is a cop-out.
Consequently, the person feels frustrated, humiliated, angry, etc. And all these things add on to the suffering.
Yeah, who cares?
And I would also say that animals don't have to deal with the existential anguish that we have.
Oh, right. You could just turn those arguments right around and say, for everything that happens to them, they think everything is permanent. They have no capacity to understand that it's only for a second or it's only going to last 5 minutes. They can't know that a problem they have is not a big problem. Look at just how they learn. I mean, you could just, I could see with these cats here. Once they learn something's dangerous or when something threatens them, when something happens to them, they will act afraid for years. Okay, unless they get some kind of alternative positive reinforcement, they won't get over it. Ever. They'll never forget.
There's pretty good evidence that when humans developed or evolved their bigger brain, they significantly increased their awareness of self. And with that
awareness of self has been proven by some sort of evidence. Yeah, sure it has.
Of self came an awareness of the end of self. So in order to counter this fear of death, humans had to raise themselves above other animals who represented...
Yeah, right. Raising yourself above other animals somehow means you're better than other animals because you say so. Oh, you say so. That's all that matters. Oh, I see. No, I don't think so.
Finitude and insignificance. Humans had to create culture, which is basically...
They didn't have to create culture. Everything has culture that's a social organization. Chimpanzees have culture. Some tribes of chimpanzees do certain things. Other tribes do other things based on what they've learned or what the members of their culture have learned. We didn't invent culture.
A quite arbitrary series of activities with which humans can pretend to be individuals of value in a world of meaning, contributing
bibbly babbly bibbly 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 babbly bibbly. Yeah, I don't understand any of that.
Into something that lasts beyond their own physical deaths, and thus gaining a sense of symbolic immortality.
Yeah, just bullshit. Absolute crap. Okay, yeah, brainwash a kid into bibbly-babbly-boo, believing in gods and mishy-mushy and wishy-washy, and they'll believe it. They'll mimic their silly adult parents, adult quote-unquote, oh, Akaba, oh, Akaba, and they'll sing the same silly songs, and, have the same infadias and infartitudes and all the rest of the bullshit they'll do, but it's just learned bibble, okay? If you raise a kid to say, hey, this is what life is, okay? You're an anus and a mouth and not much else, jackass. And maybe you ought to be careful about what you consume and how much you consume, because you basically suck. Your basic nature is selfish cunt, And that's about all you fucking are. Now, you could raise a kid in that reality, and then he's not going to have any of these bibbly-babbly-boo issues, is he? No, he's not.
Thus, if culture itself is a measure of this existential anguish,
culture itself is just a fucking big fat pile of barf. Culture is a bunch of chaotic pop memes that have no credibility. It's just like Christianity. Christianity didn't earn it. Christianity didn't have a conversation with the human race and say, look, we have this theory of God based on Jehovah. No, Christianity had big guns, and they pointed them at people and said, you believe what we believe or we're going to kill you. Shit. But culture's just crap. It's just a bunch of pop crap that make people feel good, and that's it. A bunch of shit that says, you're not really fat. You're not really a stupid weaselly cunt. When you really are.
One could say with a fair amount of certainty that, everything else being equal, a creature that does not need culture suffers less.
Do you need culture? I don't think you need. I don't need culture. No. Whatever that means. Need culture. Come on.
Also, notice that if one believes Inmendham's statement that the suffering that humans cause in nature is only 0.00001% of the total suffering, that is a proportionally insignificant amount of suffering.
No, I said that humans endure only a tiny percentage of the amount of suffering, that the animal kingdom is way, way, way ahead of us. Yes, animals are living and dying all over the place every fucking day. Like this. All the time it's happening. Rats only live 3 fucking years.
Then, one should actually be happy about the species extinctions that humans are perpetrating, because we would actually be reducing suffering.
Yeah, well look, the species we're making extinct are microbes and plants and funguses, and they count anything. Okay, we haven't made too many big things extinct lately or recently, right? I mean, yeah, we're some of them are on the edge of it, okay, like elephants and stuff, but they're not really on it, right? They're not really going to go realistically extinct, because we know we'll have them in zoos or we'll have them somewhere. So, realistically, none of the really important animals are going extinct. It's just a bunch of crap like plankton in the ocean or something. Who cares?
That's why he says it would be better if we cover the whole world in asphalt, or we crash the moon into the earth. Why then advocate population reduction?
Because chaos isn't good for doing things on purpose. Doing things gracefully. Gracefully exiting isn't going to happen in chaos. Chaos, graceful. Chaos, graceful. You see, the two words really don't mix.
After all, if nature is responsible for 99.99999% of the suffering, having more of us around would, according to his logic.
No, according to your perversion and idiocracy, right? I mean, I've already said this. I probably said it in the goddamn video you watched. The chaos is not good. Chaos isn't good for doing anything on purpose, reasonably, carefully, thoughtfully. These are all words that were used in the video, so you already heard these words. So you're just lying now, right? You're just lying, pretending Inmendham didn't already counter-argue the crap you're saying. Because he did in the fucking video you say you watched.
Actually, largely take care of the problem. And, ultimately...
Yeah, it won't take care of the problem. It'll create more suffering for the animals and more suffering for the humans. So, yeah, that won't take care of the problem, will it? Because, again, the animals going extinct are not the sentient organisms on Earth. Alright, let's go figure out how many sentient organisms are going extinct every day. Not how many non-sentient organisms are going extinct every day. And then you can have a rational conversation about the impact on feeling organisms rather than the impact on nothing.
Lead to an environmental catastrophe that would wipe humans out as well.
Right, and where was that in the conversation? Where was the theory that human beings will do it so right that they'll have their chaos war in such a right way that everything gets annihilated and everything's clean and everything died efficiently? Where's that theory proposed? Oh, that's right, it isn't anywhere. That's just absolute nonsense. That's just a bunch of drivel.
That would be the most realistic attempt at achieving his desired moon crash or asphalt cover.
Right. So when I say moon crash, that is some kind of deliberate effort to pretty much instantaneously discontinue the existence of life on Earth. And that's a deliberate act where he's saying, no, don't bother doing something deliberately. Humans will somehow have a chaos war that'll take care of it all for you. Yeah, sure.
Earth. So, I would guess that his anti-life position is not necessarily a mercy killing.
Yeah, I would guess you're a lying piece of fucking cunt shit. Yeah, that's what I'd guess.
But rather an attempt to gain a partial victory over his own fear of death.
Yeah, whatever that is. I'm not afraid of death, you weasel. You're afraid of the truth, okay? Because you're too invested in your little ego, and you just can't stand the idea that you're not going to leave anything behind, and that you're not going to represent. You know, that's why you're wearing jewelry and stuff. That's an evidence of a psychological problem.
That is, he is willing to advocate for the actual extinction of humans and their symbolic culture, but only by eliminating the symbolic death that nature itself represents.
Yeah, whatever the fuck that means. Hello? Huh? Oh yeah, that makes no sense at all. No, I had a conversation with a guy who wants to kill humans, okay, and leave the planet to natural functionality. Crocodiles eating shit, the same old mechanism, the meat grinder goes on and on and on and on and on. Life, death, life, death, life, death. Life is death, you know, it's a death sentence. You do understand that, don't you? You haven't died yet, have you? Yet you're saying that I know it's good for you. I know you're going to like it. You're going to think it was well worth it. I'm sure of it. Of course, I haven't done it, but I'm sure you're going to love it. I mean, you're selling something you haven't even eaten. You know what I'm saying? That's the hypocrisy of you fuckers. You know, you're selling this property and you haven't lived on it. You're selling a toxic waste dump and you haven't spent day one really living on it. But you're selling it like you know what it is. You haven't lived as the Elephant Man. You haven't had elephantitis. You haven't had cholera. I bet you haven't. I could go on down the list of all the things you haven't had. You haven't been born blind. You haven't been born paralyzed. You haven't even been born a woman. And yet you're going to tell me that you know what life is and that it's worth it no matter what. You can give us all a blanket endorsement. Impose it all you want. Fuck them all over. Victims don't matter. And that's all you're fucking saying. You're just saying you don't give a rat's ass about a victim because you are hunting joy. And your little beaded necklace, little wimpy, bullshitty, titty-tatty, tooty-tooty religious bullshit is somehow worth it. Well, fuck you. Yeah. Okay, enough of that. Yeah, it was sort of fun. I gotta find out who this guy is. Mr. 101 Nights. My 10-day Vipipania experience. I wonder what the fuck that is. I wonder what a Vipipania is.
So I just finished my Vipassana retreat about
Vipassana.
a day and a half ago.
It's all this
And I wanted to wait a little bit before making a video.
Very exciting.
Tell you about the experience.
Oh yeah, very
because I wanted to
great, fantastic.
sort of step back and
all right,
see
whatever.
what just happened
Let's
to
get
me.
to it. Let's get to it. I'll move ahead.
Uncomfortable just getting my body for some reason, and I realized that it was coming from, the main discomfort was coming from a sensation in front of my right nipple. I mean, really weird.
Oh,
right?
yeah, that is a little weird. Nipples.
10 days without talking.
He's got
which
bracelets,
is very
too.
healthy, I feel, for
Yeah, 10
most
days without talking.
civilized.
Very cool.
Your skin first.
And
And for me, it's mostly a sense of warmth.
yeah,
a warmth
facial.
that, kind of a field of energy.
It's very,
that, you
very.
can be either doing it a bit like a
all-
scan, or you can just go from part to part.
He's very gay. Okay, enough of this shit. It's too gay for me, thank you. Anyway. I won the Nobel Peace Prize, it says. Huh, that must be a joke video. Let's see, Margaret Thatcher did a video on Thatcherism. Let's see, he's got videos with 100,000 views. Oh, please. The Swedish Feminist Nightmare. Yeah, so he's probably an anti-feminist. I don't know. Doesn't really matter. I'm not that fucking curious. Yeah. Not that curious. Till next time.